and Priest won Class S. In the Eastern Cape, recently hosted round 5 of the South African Off-Road Championship for production and special vehicles, presented by ABSA.
We have a fantastic, healthy climate here, of which is second to none in the world. We do not have any pollution here. We have excellent water here, and the result is that we even have people here at the age of 80 with their own teeth. So that makes us unique in the whole of South Africa. And of course, we have a very low crime rate, which also gives us opportunities to get other things done and walk around and enjoy our little dorp here. And at this stage, we've been enjoying the whole race right from the beginning, when it started till today. And at the end of this race, we're all going to be sorry that this whole group has left us.
The Queen Motorspares Tarka 400 attracted 53 entries, of which 28 were in the closely contested production vehicle category, where the factory Nissan, Ford and Toyota teams do battle. The rain and snow forecast for the race never materialized, but conditions were nevertheless cold, and the 360-kilometer route promised to be a tough, dusty test for man and machine. The 40-kilometer prologue to determine starting positions for the Queen Motorspares Tarka 400 provided an interesting mix of high speed and extremely rough terrain, interspersed with dozens of contour drains. Janelle de Villiers was in his element, and he and co-driver Francois Jordan put the proudly South African Nissan hardbody onto pole with a time of 32 minutes and 21 seconds. Bat racing pair Gary Berthold and Brandon Harkis were the leading special vehicle contenders. The locally designed and built Bat vehicles have become a force with which to be reckoned and have been on pole a number of occasions this season. Neil Woolridge and Ken Schalthammer were held up by R.P. Reinecker and Robin Houghton, who had handling problems on the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser. The Team Ford Racing Ranger crew would start 1 minute and 29 seconds behind the leading Nissan. Last year's special vehicle category winners, John Weir-Smith and Jeff Minnett, posted the 4th fastest time in the O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Super Team Jimco. The onboard camera shows just how rough sections of the prologue route were. It's been an expensive year for the Super Team, with the Jimco sporting its 4th new BMW 540 V8 engine in 5 outings. Atang Machaganeni and Mike Stangl were 5th fastest and hoping for a 3rd special vehicle category win in the Total Sam Racing Jimco after victories in rounds 1 and 4 of the championship. His prologue performance met with the approval of his large support group. Husband and wife Gerard and Kirby du Plessis were 6th in the Liebherr Mobile Jimco. Gerard won 4 events in 2002, but has been plagued by mechanical gremlins on every outing this year. 7th placed Mark Corbett and Jason Brever were finally back in action in the Century Property Development's Bat, which was badly damaged after an encounter with a tree on the Toyota 1000. Reinecker and Houghton had a rough ride in the prologue. Reinecker complained afterwards that the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser was handling badly after changes to the suspension settings, which slowed their pace considerably and had to settle for the 8th fastest time, 4 minutes and 13 seconds slower than the leaders. Frikkie Botha and Melville Priest were 9th fastest in the Santon Off-Road Accessories Race Co. and the leading Class S qualifiers. Class A championship contenders John Moore and Fred Werner posted the 10th fastest time in the ex-France Chepek championship winning Shell Connex Chenoweth, while Oven Fresh Biscuits 500 Class B winners Clint Gibson and Mike Brown were the fastest Class B crew in the Presidium Financial Services Bat. Production Vehicle Championship contenders and Class E Championship leaders Mark Grenier and Chris Birkin showed the rest of the Class E field the way home in the Castrol Toyota Hilux 2.7i. They qualified 12th, a mere 11 seconds ahead of Class D leaders Piet Haasbroek and Freddie Schippers in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser that has been dogged by suspension and drivetrain problems this season. Kutsia Labuskaghni and Johan Gerber kept the four-car GBS Nissan Racing flag flying high by qualifying 14th. Their three teammates experienced problems in the prologue and would start the main event 36th, 51st and 52nd respectively. Event sponsor and reigning Special Vehicle Drivers Champion Greg Harvey and GQ editor Daniel Ford picked up 2 punctures on the Queen Motorspares Jimco and had to settle for the 15th fastest time. Class S Championship leader Nick Gosler with new co-driver Warren Bowie on board had a clean run in the O'Hagan's Kopenong Hotel Super Team Raceco and would start the main event in 16th place. Arnold Duplessis and George Baker made their Class D debut in Mafeking and posted the 17th fastest time on this occasion in the Class D Productor Nissan Hardbody. Arnold's brothers Andre and Yuri compete in Class E and qualified 27th. Saloon car racers Zane Pierce and Henny Vosloo were the second fastest Class E qualifiers in the diesel-powered high-Q Ford Ranger, while Botswana businessmen Mohammed Noor and Mohammed Mulsin were only 10 seconds slower in the 19th place Class S Super Veg Raceco. Alfie Cox was meant to be racing his KTM in the Australian Safari, but an injured shoulder forced him to withdraw and he opted to enter the Tarka 400 instead. He and Henny Testierge rounded out the top 20 in the Arnold Chance Cars Nissan Hardbody. Duncan Foss and Mike Griffith had drivetrain problems on the Nissan Hardbody and would start way down the field in the main event. There were problems too for Production Vehicle Championship leaders Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek.
Slow, not too fast.
Hannes went for second gear and suddenly there was no drive from the clutch, so that's a new one. And Duncan, the prop shaft UJ joint broke, and then that broke the oil pump pipe for the gearbox. So that gave him some smoke, which gave him a fright, which didn't allow him to continue. Otherwise, he probably would have finished the time trial with little loss, but unfortunately the smoke put him off it a bit. But anyway, we live to fight another day. Janelle's fastest, and I think Hannes starts 17th and Duncan 18th. Should make the race interesting.
There were problems on the Class D Championship leading Giovanni Coltradeo.
Ons het so seker 15 kilometer in een van die ouens se stof gery. Ons het probeer om verby te kom, 'n hekpaal getref. Ons het aangegaan en deurgegaan tot op die end.
Some leaves on Mark Cronier's Castrol Toyota Hilux rear leaf springs had broken and technicians were hard at work repairing the damage. Pity the Nissan technicians who had to replace 3 gearboxes, a task which would take them deep into the night. The rough conditions clearly suited the special vehicle crews, with only 3 production vehicles qualifying in the top 10. Crews woke up to an icy morning and donned whatever warm clothing they had to ward off the cold. The SA Off-Road Championship, presented by ABSA, comprises 2 championships in one. The Production Vehicle Championship caters for 4- and 6-cylinder commercial vehicles with limited modifications and 2- and 4-wheel drive unlimited super trucks. The Special Vehicle Championship caters for space or tubular frame vehicles with A-arm or trailing arm front suspensions, which are fitted with a variety of engines, ranging from 2-litre 4-cylinder to mega horsepower V8 units.
Yeah, we had a bit of trouble yesterday in the time trials, and we had to change 2 gearboxes. We had to obviously take one out the other car and put it in the other car because the one doesn't work with the other car. One's got a mechanical pump and one an electrical pump. But we finished about at 10 o'clock last night and everything is fine now. All the harness we had to put a new clutch in and everything's quite good. We're very happy.
It went very well in the time trial yesterday. Some of the other guys had bad luck, so but we had a good time trial, nothing major, and hopefully we can just finish today as well, like we did the time trial yesterday.
Yesterday we proved again that the bats are very quick. Not only us, but Clint, I think, was 3 minutes quicker than the next Class B car, which says quite a lot for the car and for his driving and his team and his preparation and everything like that. Today's going to be a good race. Very good terrain, very rough, very fast, very rough, slow sections as well. And I think it's going to be a war of attrition today. I don't see many people finishing this race.
The Kopanong Hotel helicopter provides medical support as well as aerial views of the action on all events. The Tarka showgrounds were a hive of activity prior to the start, with the 52 starters faced with 2 laps of an extremely tough 180-kilometre course. De Villiers and Jordan led the production vehicle field away in the proudly South African Nissan hardbody, and were hoping to bring teammates Hannes Grobler and Richard Leake's record-breaking run of 7 consecutive victories to an end. Harkes and Berthold shared the drive in the bat, and it was Brandon Harkes who had the honour of leading the special vehicle field away. They came so close to winning the Oven Fresh Biscuits 500 and had issued a challenge to their rivals on the Queen Motors Spares Tarka 400, Catch Us If You Can. Woolridge and Scholthammer were next away in the Team Ford Racing Ranger and had some ground to make up on the leading Nissan. Unlike the rest of the field, they only had the dust of 2 vehicles with which to contend. O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Super Team pair, Ware Smith and Minute, hoped to repeat their 2002 victory, but would have to ward off a determined Makakhaneni and Stangl, who couldn't believe their luck when they passed the Super Team Jumco soon after the start. Diamond prospector Gerard Duplessis and wife Quirby have a do-or-die approach and usually pile on the pressure right from the start. The Super Team Jumco had broken a drive shaft, and a dejected Minute could only look on as another of his rivals, Mark Corbett and Colin Bruvere, stormed by the Audi V8-powered Century Property Development's bat. On board Reinicke and Harton's Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser.
150, 90 left, and stop for road crossing. 150, 90 left, and stop for road crossing. Let it work.
They had 3.5 minutes to make up on leaders De Villiers and Jordan, which would be difficult in the dusty conditions. Frikkie Buerter and Melville Priest retired the Santon Off-Road Accessories Race Co. within 30 minutes of the start. John Moore and Fred Werner are consistent performers and were contenders for the special vehicle category win, while Clint Gibson and Mike Brown have shown that the Nissan-powered Presidium Financial Services bat has what it takes to win Class B. Cronje and Birken had a 50-second lead over the nearest Class E rivals, and much was expected of the Castrol Toyota pair. Class D leaders Haasbroek and Schippers started 11 seconds later, and it was now evident that the choking dust would be a major problem for the bulk of the field, with 33 seconds separating the next 7 starters. Schrobler and Richard Leake and Duncan Foss and Mike Griffith started 41st and 42nd overall and would have to make up over 16 minutes on the leading Nissan.
Try and put a new one on. This is how off-road racing is meant to work. Am I right, Jono? I think so. Yeah.
What follows are the highlights of the production vehicle category battle, and what a battle it was. De Villiers and Jordan had matters all their own way at the front of the field. The Queen Motorspares Tarka 400 route included over hundreds of contour drains, which kept the vehicles airborne for long sections of the race. Behind them, it was sheer hell for the chasing pack as they fought their way through the dust. Woolridge and Scholthammer were second in the Team Ford Racing Ranger, but unable to make any impression on the leading proudly South African Nissan because of the dust. Arpie Reynaker and Robin Harton were third in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser, which was handling a lot better as a result of changes that were made to suspension settings after Friday's prologue.
90 left, yeah. 1,200 meters, T-junction right. Keep left. 100, join road to the right. 100, join road to the right. Right. Join road to the right. 1.2 kilometers straight on through gate. 1.2 kilometers straight on through gate.
Class E Championship leaders Mark Cronier and Chris Birkin held down fourth place in the Castrol Toyota Hilux 2.7i and had a comfortable lead over a horde of Class D vehicles and nearest Class E challengers Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. All vehicles competing in the SA Off-Road Championship, presented by ABSA, are required to be fitted with a rear-facing yellow spotlight to enable pursuing competitors to have a reference point, especially in thick dust. It's often a case of aiming for the yellow light and hoping that the vehicle ahead is on the correct route. Class D Championship leaders Johan and Martinez van der Merwe were 10th in the Giovanni Coltradeo and being chased hard by Visser and Badenhorst in the Class E Toyota. Zane Pierce and Henny Vosloo were third in Class E, but would later retire with electrical problems on the High Q Ford Ranger, and were followed by Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham in the Team Ford Racing Ranger. They were slowed by a broken engine mount and would later lose a lot of time with a broken torsion bar, which they replaced at the trackside by using a spare from Pierce's stranded vehicle. The Ford problems allowed husband and wife Niels and Zelda van der Walt in the Nissan hardbody to make up 2 places on lap 1 before they too had problems. The Nissan overheated throughout the weekend and used up 60 litres of water during the main event. They eased their pace and set their sights on a finish. Brothers Yuri and Anbe Duplessis were handily placed in the Class E BB Auto Nissan hardbody, but would later retire with electrical problems. Hannes Steen and Ferdy Seegers were slowed by turbo problems on the Toyota Hilux KZTE, They'd only finished once in 4 starts this season and were determined to soldier on to the finish with an engine that was down on power. The Albaranti Auto Spray Land Rover of Marius van Vieren and Chris Marie didn't make it to the midway service point. A ball joint on the steering control arm sheared off at high speed, and they nearly rolled as they went careening off the route. Class D Championship hopeful Dion Skuman and Jeremy Fall are one of only 5 crews to have finished all events this season. Immaculate preparation of the top car Nissan hardbody and consistent driving has been a recipe for success. Hannes Hrobler and Richard Leek were on a charge in the proudly South African Nissan. They had carved their way through the field and closed to within 9 minutes of leaders de Villiers and Jordan. Whether or not they could overtake their teammates was another question. Hrobler and Leek were faced with the daunting task of having to overtake more than 40 vehicles in their quest for the lead. It was not all that easy, as the onboard camera shows. An interesting move by Dion Skuman. Duncan Foss and Mike Griffith started on the same second as Hrobler and Leek, but had dropped back and now trailed their teammates by 1 minute and 40 seconds. MC Coetzee in the GBS Racing Nissan was having engine management problems and proved difficult to overtake. Foss, who previously drove a Class D Nissan, is the reigning production vehicle drivers champion and has adapted well to the more powerful Class T Nissan. Back to the leaders, de Villiers and Jordan, as they continued on their merry way. So far they'd not had any problems, and not having to drive in anyone's dust was a blessing. Crews and vehicles took a pounding on the contour drains, which resulted in a number of retirements due to suspension failure. The de Villiers Nissan is similar to the one he raced in this year's Dakar. It features a space frame or tubular chassis with independent suspension all round, whereas the Hrobler and Foss Nissans have the original chassis and live rear axle. And talking of Dakar, de Villiers will miss the Toyota Dealer 400 in October, as he'll be competing in the UAE Desert Challenge in Dubai in preparation for Dakar 2004. Sensibly, Nissan Motorsport uses the SA Off-Road Championship, presented by ABSA, as a test bed for its Dakar vehicles, as local conditions are regarded as being some of the toughest in the world. Second-placed Woolridge and Scholthammer were now 1 minute 41 seconds behind the Nissan. They have also competed in the Dakar event and finished third in the T1 category class in 1999. They're trying to raise money to contest Dakar 2004 in the Team Ford Racing Ranger, which they believe has what it takes to win the event.
Right in the fence. 190 right at end of fence. That's the warning. Led by Elite 1. 90 right, he's off.
Reineke and Houghton lost 10 minutes when the steering boss on the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser came loose. Houghton tried to tighten the screws while Reineke drove, but they eventually decided to wait until the midway service point to have it repaired. Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek continued carving their way through the field in the proudly South African Nissan hardbody. They were now 4th overall and only had a few more special vehicles to overtake before they were clear of the dust. Force and Griffith were 6th overall in the Class T Nissan and about to overtake Class E leaders Mark Cronier and Chris Birkin in the Castrol Toyota Hilux. Father and son, Cliff and Louis Weisholt, were the new Class D leaders in the N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser after the front-wheel knuckles bolt on early leaders Haasbroek's Toyota sheared off. Cox and de Steerger were second, but would soon retire with steering failure on the Arnold Chatzkars Nissan, while GBS Nissan pair Kusir Labaskachni and Johan Gerber were third in Class D. Hannes Steen and Ferdy Searchers nursed their Toyota Hilux along, which was heavily down on power, and surprisingly were second in Class E, only 14 minutes behind Cronier and Birkin. Barberspan Farmers Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst were third in Class E, but were about to be overtaken by Scott Abraham and Richard Carolyn in the Atlas Copco Chicago pneumatic Jeep, which started 49th. De Villiers and Jordan were the first to arrive at the midway service point, but their lead had been cut to less than a minute. Long-range fuel tanks and a trouble-free run meant they didn't have to stop. Woolridge and Scholthammer enter the service point 58 seconds behind the leaders, and they too didn't stop for fuel. The race was well and truly on. Unlike the front-running teams, Reineke and Houghton had to stop for repairs to the Castrol Toyota steering wheel, which cost them over 3 minutes. The Grobler Nissan had run out of brakes towards the end of the first lap, and valuable time would be lost while the problem was attended to.
Yeah, we've been going very well, and about 50 k's out, the brakes started going, so we turned the brakes all to the front to try and get a little bit, and that's lasted a while, and we kept catching on RP's tail, and then we went brakes altogether, no brakes altogether, about 30 k's out, and we just had to take it carefully to get here. But I see RP's just left. He's a minute and a half ahead of us now. If we live in another minute, catch him in 50 k's.
Grobler and Leek lost a place to Force and Griffith, who had no need to stop. A quick driver change for the Atlas Copco Chicago pneumatic Jeep, which had moved up from 49th place at the start to 8th at the midway point. The Class D battle was hotting up with any one of 6 crews, including the Van der Merwes and Dion Skuman, capable of walking away with a class win. The faster, better handling Class T vehicles had come into their own on the Queen Motorspares Tarka 400 and occupied 6th of the top 10 position. Proudly South African Nissan pair Janelle de Villiers and Francois Jordan were in a class of their own and continued to lead from Neil Woolridge and Ken Scholthammer in the Team Ford Racing Ranger. Woolridge wasn't happy with the handling of the Ford, which deteriorated as their fuel load reduced. With his confidence in the steering on the Toyota fully restored, Reineke was able to pile on the pressure. Duncan Force and Mike Griffith were now 4th overall and close enough to Reineke and Houghton to mount a challenge for 3rd place. Production Vehicle Championship leaders Grobler and Leek could have done without the brake problems, which seriously hampered their attempt at gaining the lead from their teammates and extending their record to 8 consecutive wins. Rotax Max World Karting champion Mark Cronier and Chris Birkin had a clean run in the Castrol Toyota Hilux and were more than 3 minutes ahead of the next Class E challenger. Cliff and Louis Weisholt had matters under control in Class D with the N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser performing faultlessly. Steyn and Seegers soldiered on in the second place Class E Toyota Hilux KZTE, but had Cassie Coetzee and Oki Fari closing in fast in the Castrol Toyota Hilux KZTE. Coetzee started 50th after blowing a head gasket in the prologue and had moved up to 3rd after a storming drive through the field. The Toyota would later lose front-wheel drive. MC Coetzee and Marius Liebenberg took advantage of GBS Nissan teammates Coetzee Labuskaghni and Johan Gerber's ball joint problems to snatch second place in Class D. De Villiers and Jordan had a scare when they picked up a puncture. Onboard hydraulic jacks proved to be their savior, and they were able to change the wheel in a phenomenal 1 minute 38 seconds, which allowed Woolridge and Scholthammer to close within 22 seconds of them. Woolridge and Scholthammer decided to consolidate their position and settle for second place because they felt it was too risky to try to overtake the Nissan on the narrow tracks where there was no margin for error. The official Nissan Supporters Club was out in force and eagerly awaited the arrival of the other Class T Nissans. Reineke and Harton were still 3rd, but faced a double challenge. They were being held up by Greg Harvey and Daniel Ford and had Foss and Griffith nipping at their heels. Only seconds separated the Toyota and the Nissan, and with a 1/3 of the race to go, the scene was set for an interesting finale in the production vehicle battle. Reineke managed to get by Harvey a few kilometers later and started to open a gap on Foss, who now had Harvey in his sights. Foss and Griffith made short work of Harvey and set off after the 3rd place Toyota. Arpi Reineke and Robin Houghton threw caution to the wind and pushed the Toyota, which the team lays claim to being the fastest Land Cruiser in the world, to the limit. Depending on the wind direction, Foss and Griffith would close right onto the Toyota, but then be forced to drop back because of poor visibility. Despite gearbox problems in the closing stages of the Queen Motor Spares Tarka 400, Hannes Grobler and Richard Leek were on a charge and hell-bent on reclaiming 4th place. Cronier and Birkin were 6th overall, and the Class E leaders in the Castrol Toyota Hilux 2.7i, which had not missed a beat all day. Scott Abraham and Richard Carolyn were 7th in the Atlas Copco Chicago pneumatic Jeep after starting 49th. The suspension on the American-built vehicle was well suited to the roller coaster conditions that prevailed for much of the route. Despite picking up a puncture, Cliff and Louis Weisholt pressed on and were 8th overall in the N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser. Castrol Toyota crew Cassie Coetzee and Oki Fari were 9th overall and 2nd in Class E, with Hannes Steyn and Ferdy Seegers 10th. There was no catching Janelle de Villiers and Francois Jordan as they stormed to a flag-to-flag victory on the Queen Motor Spares Tarka 400. John Woolridge and Ken Schalthammer had settled for second in the Team Ford Racing Ranger and trailed the proudly South African Nissan by 3 minutes. R.P. Reinecker and Robin Houghton were third in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser, almost 30 minutes behind the leading Nissan. Force and Griffith got lost close to the finish, which allowed Grobler and Leek to nip by into fourth spot. Grobler had closed within 4 minutes of the third-place Toyota and was only 2 seconds ahead of teammates Foss and Griffith. Cronier and Birkin never relinquished the Class E lead and went on to finish 6th overall in the Castrol Toyota Hilux 2.7i. 7th overall went to Scott Abraham and Richard Carolyn in the Atlas Copco Chicago pneumatic Jeep. The Weichel's valiantly held on to 8th place and the Class D lead. They finished the event with one tyre in shreds. Kasi Kutsia and Oki Fari came from 50th to 9th overall and second in Class E in the Castrol Toyota Hilux KZTE. Another solid performance by the veteran rally and off-road driver. Tenth placed Hannes Steen and Ferdy Segers completed the event with a malfunctioning turbo on their Toyota Hilux KZTE. In his best performance to date, rookie Dion Skuman and Jeremy Fall finished 11th overall and second in Class D in the top car Nissan hardbody. Johan and Martinez van der Merwe had a day they'd rather forget. Despite broken engine mountings, broken spare wheel brackets, and Martinez getting car sick, they finished 12th overall and third in Class D. They were followed home by brothers Mark and Stuart Muffet in the Class D McCarthy Land Rover. Chris Visser and Jaapie Badenhorst went on to finish 14th overall and 4th in Class D in the Toyota Hilux. Manfred Schroeder and Jack Peckham lost time when they had to replace a broken torsion bar on the Class E Team Ford Racing Ranger. They went on to finish 15th overall ahead of Class F leaders Andre Buerter and Wiens Heidenrich in the O'Hagan's Kopenong Hotel Super Team Chev, who went on to finish their first event and win Class F. JP and Linda Augustine survived fuel pump and front diff problems to finish 17th in the GBS Racing Nissan, while teammates Kusia Labuskachny and Francois Gerber broke a ball joint on the GBS Racing Nissan, but luck was on their side. They came across the stricken Nissan of teammate Hein Grobler and stripped a ball joint from his car to fit to theirs and went on to finish 18th ahead of another of their teammates, MC Kutsia and Marius Liebenberg, who were plagued with engine management problems. Niels and Zelda van der Walt have a never-say-die attitude and nursed their overheating Class E Nissan hardbody home in 20th place. Piet Haasbroek and Freddie Schippers lost 2 hours replacing a front wheel knuckle on the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser and were the last classified finishers. Talk about perseverance. The finish was in sight for de Villiers St. Jordan, and they could celebrate their first victory in 8 starts and Nissan's 12th consecutive win. Grobler and Leek's record run had been broken, but would not be easily equaled.
I must say it's good again, man. I think it's been 6 or 7 or 8 months since I've last won a race, so it's definitely the best way to do it. And I'm very happy for Nissan and for the team because the guys worked very hard last night. We had a few small problems, but in the end it paid off today, and I'm very happy for them.
There was also much to celebrate in the Team Ford camp, with Woolridge and Schalthammer coming home second overall. The Ford Ranger proved it had the pace, and now all the team had to do was sort out the handling.
Yeah, it's been a fantastic race. I really love this race. It's rough. It's got everything in it. It's really been great. Unfortunately, setup on the suspension, we still need to sort out a little bit. The light of the car got the worse it kicked, and we only really feel it on a really rough race like this. So we've got some adjustments to make, but yeah, Nissan did well. I think we stuck within 2 minutes, a minute, 30 seconds all day. So we just couldn't make it, But a great race, very nice.
Apart from the steering hub problem, R.P. Reinecker and Robin Houghton had a clean run in the Castrol Toyota Land Cruiser and were quite satisfied with their and their vehicle's performance.
It handled quite well. There's still a lot of, for me, as far as I'm concerned, there's a lot we can done to this car. We just need time to get the right settings on the suspension. So we had a good race, clean race, except that we had to stop for about 10 minutes. Our steering wheel came loose and we had to fix that, but otherwise we had a clean race.
The odds of an 8th consecutive win were heavily stacked against Hannes Grobler and Richard Leake. And conversely, the odds of anyone matching their record-breaking feat are rather slim.
We've got 7 in a row till the previous one, and Janelle won now, and we'll see if anybody else is going to be able to break our record. We're just going to try not to let anybody do it, but we'll see on the next one. We're happy where we finished.
Teammates Duncan Force and Mike Griffith came in 5th overall.
I think in these space frames, those guys, everyone is trying so hard, and you really don't know if someone is behind you or not. So we gave him the benefit of the doubt for KO2, but then RP was starting to get away a little bit, and we had to nudge him, but I'm sure it wasn't a problem for him or for us.
Castrol Toyota pair Mark Cronier and Chris Birkin finished 6th overall and notched up their 3rd Class E win of the season.
Well, I must say I enjoyed it a hell of a lot because we didn't get stuck in too much dust, and it was a nice clean run. We can't complain, no punctures, just kept it on the road and pushed a little bit towards the end, and that was it. Came to the end.
The Class D win went to father and son Cliff and Louis Weisholt in the N1 4x4 Toyota Land Cruiser. They finished the event with a right rear tyre in shreds.
We're going well this morning. It was a bit dusty. Struggled to get past the guys, and eventually they let us past. And then we had a clean run the first round, and we got into the pits. We had a flat wheel stabilizer that was broken, and then swapped the wheel, went out, and then we had halfway in the second stage we had 2 flats at the same time, so we've used up all the flats. And then about 80 k's from the end, the accelerator link broke off the injector pump, so we had to modify that first. Otherwise we had a clean run.
A maiden race finish and Class F win for Andre Buerter and Beans Haydenreich in the O'Hagan's Kopenhagen Hotel Super Team Chef.
I feel great. I'm tired, but it's thanks to all the help that we had from all the other guys, from the team, and from everybody, and it was really great. Thanks very much. And of course, thanks to Beans, who guided me through all the way. Without him, we couldn't have done it.
The as closely contested as the production vehicle category was. Gary Berthold and Brandon Harkus in the Nissan V6 powered Bat putting their stamp of authority on the race right from the start. And it was up to their rivals, husband and wife Gerard and Kirby Duplessis in the Porsche powered Liebherr Jimco, former special vehicle champion Mark Corbett and Jason Brever in the Audi V8 powered Century Property Developments Bat, and John Moore and Fred Werner in the Porsche powered Shell Connex Chenoweth to catch them if they could. Class B winners on the Oven Fresh Biscuits 500, Clint Gibson and Mike Brown, were 5th overall, and Class B leaders in the Nissan-powered Presidium Financial Services bat. The KwaZulu-Natal pair had a good lead in their closest Class B rivals. Queenstown businessman Greg Harvey came out of retirement to compete in this event and had the editor of GQ magazine, Daniel Ford, alongside him in the Queen Motor Spares Jimco. Right behind them were Class S leaders Nick Gosler and Warren Bowie in the O'Hagan's Kopanang Hotel Super Team Raceco, who in turn had Atang Makhaganeni and Mike Stangl, who had picked up a puncture, bearing down on them in the Total Sam Racing Jimco. A cheeky move from Terence Marsh and Trevor Ayer, who started 43rd in the Mitsubishi V6 Supercharged Nashua Mobile Racing Jimco and were carving their way through the field. The team is using the 2003 season as a development exercise with a view to winning the championship in 2004. Class S contenders Mohammed Noor and Mohammed Mulsin were second in the class in the Super Veg Raceco, while John Weir Smith and Jeff Minnett, who started an hour after the last car, were on a charge. Their run would come to a crashing end close to the midway point when they mistimed a jump and launched the O'Hagan's Kopanang Hotel Jimco 3 stories into the air. The high-flying Berthold and Harkus were in total command of the battle and were over 8 minutes ahead of Mark Corbett and Jason Brever in the Century Property Development's bat. Such has been the impact of the bat vehicles that orders are streaming in from overseas, with FIA World Group N Rally champion Gregoire de Mavius shortly taking delivery of 2 vehicles that will be campaigned in the FIA World Cup for cross-country rallies. Moore and Werner were 3rd overall in the Chenoweth, in which Franz Chepak Sr. and Jr. won this event in 2001. Reigning Special Vehicle champion Greg Harvey showed that he has lost none of the ability that earned him the championship crown and was, for the time being, comfortable with 4th overall in the Lexus V8-powered Queen Motor Spares Jimco. The Vormeland-based Duplessis couple had got the Liebherr Jimco tangled up in a fence, which damaged an oil pipe on the engine. The smoke trail spelled disaster, and their race would soon be run when the Porsche engine lost oil pressure. The rest of the Class B field had no answer for the Presidium Financial Services bat of Clint Gibson and Mike Brown. The superior handling of the locally designed and constructed bat gave them a definite edge over the opposition. Nissan Dealer 400 and Oven Fresh Biscuits 500 winners, Atang Makhaganeni and Mike Stangl, were struggling. The Total Sam Racing Jimco was down on power, and their race would soon come to an end. Class S leaders Gosler and Bowie, like the rest of the field, had to contend with dust and poor visibility. But the newcomers to the sport were undaunted and continued to open the gap between themselves and Noor and Mulsin. Marsh and Ayer were making steady progress in the Nashua Mobile Racing Jimco and would soon benefit from the Duplessis and Makhaganeni retirements. Noor and Mulsin run a very professional setup and, barring any unforeseen problems, could be counted upon to deliver a good result. Predictably, Berthold and Harkus arrived first at the midway service point and had 9 minutes in hand over Corbett and Brever. Father Boda Berthold himself, a driver of note, directing proceedings in the bat pit. Corbett and Brever were having gearbox problems on the Century Property Development's bat. A quick driver change and some fuel was all that was required in the Bat Racing pit, while there was much concern in the Corbett camp.
Where's it being out there? Automatic first, Mark. Turning it up now.
Harvey and Ford had moved up to third overall and were only 12 minutes behind the leaders. Gerhard and Kirby Duplessis ended their race at the end of a tow rope.
Lyk my baldraad gehak. Dit gooi klippe op en die agter is so 'n pypie. Gooi die pypie af, dis al die olie uit. Val die olie druk. Gelukkig sien ek dit. Ja, dis wat gebeur.
A dejected Total Sam Racing crew started packing for the journey home.
I'm obviously not mechanical wise, but according to Mike, he thinks we dropped a valve or something happened to the rockers. So we had to save them a bit of money, stop, and minimize cost of repairs, so that next time we'll try again. What can we do? We'll be back.
Moore and Werner were now fourth in the Shell Connex Chenoweth, but the gearbox wasn't too happy. The O'Hagan's Kopanong Hotel Super Team pit crew mobilized to get Gosselin Bowie out with minimum delay.
Hungry and tired.
Gibson and Morton waited patiently while their crew refueled the Class B leading Bat.
They're ready. Class B's way behind.
Berthold and Harkus earned a reputation for being rather gung-ho in their past off-road racing exploits. But the red haze, so common in motor racing, has given way to a newfound maturity. Mark Corbett and Jason Brever's charge would come to an end when the automatic gearbox on the Century Property Development's Bat failed, which allowed Greg Harvey and Daniel Ford to grab second spot in the Queen Motor Spares Jumco. John Moore and Fred Werner's run ended when the gearbox on the Shell Connex Chenoweth cried enough. Gibson and Brown were in spectacular form and would soon be third overall in the Class B leading Presidium Financial Services Bat. But Class S leaders Gosselin Bowie had other plans. They had their eyes on third spot and proceeded to mount a challenge for third place. Mr. Consistency, Gil Nel, quietly went about gaining as many positions as possible in the Class B Look Africa Truggy and was happy to keep reigning Class B champions Marcus Taylor and Mark de Chalane in the Rollerbuck Racing JRE at bay. You're on board with Terence Marsh and Trevor Ayer, who had moved up to 6th overall and 3rd in Class A in the Nashua Mobile Racing Jumco. They were coming under pressure from Nissan Sugarbelt 400 winners and Special Vehicle Championship leaders Gerald Mandel and Billy Bond in the Prolong Bat. Mandel and Bond had had a problematic race with punctures and a fire on the gearbox cooler pump, almost putting paid to their race. The opposition had no answer for Gary Berthold and Brandon Harkus, who were clearly in a class of their own. They'd had a trouble-free run in the Bat and quietly went about increasing their lead over second-placed Harvey and Ford. With no championship points at stake, Harvey and Ford were quite content to settle for second place in the Queen Motor Spares Jumco, which is for sale. Gosselin Bowie were in a league of their own as far as the Class S field was concerned. Both are off-road motorcyclists, which gives them an edge when it comes to reading the road. Clint Gibson comes from an off-road racing family, with father Gibbo a veteran of the scene. Marsh and Ayer had moved up to 5th place and 3rd in Class A, and were happy that their development program was starting to bear fruit. Gil Nel was 6th in the Look Africa Truggy, and as long as he finished ahead of Mundell, he was assured of regaining the Special Vehicle Drivers' Championship lead. Noor and Mulzin hail from Gaborone and were 7th overall and 2nd in Class S in the Super Veg Raceco. The Kopenong Hotel medical and TV helicopter shadowed Mundell and Bond as they headed for the finish of the Queen Motorspares Tarka 400. Their earlier problems prevented them from mounting a charge on the leaders, and it was more a case of finishing and earning as many points as possible. Marcus Taylor and Mark de Chalane were 9th overall and 3rd in Class B in the John Rowe-built Rollerbuck Racing JRE. While Mark Corbett retired, Father Ernest and Warwick Goosen went on to finish 10th overall and 4th in Class B in the Century Property Developments BAT. Grant Watkins brought his home-built Gecko home 11th overall. Colin Herbst and Gil Loops's Toyota Space Frame would be quite at home in a Mad Max movie. They went on to finish 12th overall, while Johan Besaidnout and Daniel Groenewald survived the tough conditions and were the last-placed finishers in the special vehicle category. John Weir Smith and Jeff Minnett's race ended on a trailer. Jubilation for BAT Racing as Gary Berthold and Brandon Harkus crossed the line to record the 2nd win for BAT this season.
Well, I tell you what, I've been racing these vehicles for going on 2 years now, and this is really well deserved by BAT. I think Brandon Harkus has done an absolutely sterling job, not only of building the car, but we shared the drove this morning, and it was really a great day out there. This vehicle is absolutely phenomenal, and I'm glad that the South Africans have done it, and my hat's off to Brandon Harkus. Well done for the good hard work you've put in, and tremendous result.
Well done, coming.
Harvey and Ford finished 2nd in the Queen Motorspares Jimco.
We actually enjoyed it, but you know, normally we go for a consistent finish, but today if we broke, you know, it made no difference because we're not chasing the championship. It was really just for fun today.
A 2nd class win for the O'Hagan's Kopenong Hotel Super Team, with Gosselin Bowie 3rd overall in the Raceco.
Tired, dusty, very rocky, very tight. But good racing, one of the better races that I've raced. But now, all I want to do is get a cold beer and relax it. Thanks.
A 2nd consecutive Class B victory for Gibson and Morton in the Presidium Financial Services BAT.
The first qualifying stages were fantastic. 11th. First lap on the main race, we didn't have any hassles. I couldn't say the same for the 2nd lap, unfortunately. Had a puncher, 80 k's out. Straight after that, lost 1st, 3rd and 4th. Drove second gear all the way. And then the accelerator linkage, or the accelerator cable, kept on jumping off. So he got out the car 4 times today. So yeah, I think we've got a good package there. He's still in Class B.
Western Cape for the 2nd time this year for the Subaru Cape Rally.